Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan, we're out the Motor City Madmouth. Great crew on hand. Before I turn it over to the crew, though, I just want to let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room is one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas, South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Embley is behind the scenes. I want to make an announcement tonight that coincides with my book. In a couple of weeks or so, I'm going to be launching the Motor City Madmouth here on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, and that will coincide with the release of my media book called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. So the Motor City Madmouth show will be debuting in a couple of weeks or so. Stay tuned. All right, let me go to the crew, and we'll start off with Mr. U. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me back, sir. Appreciate it, man.
You're very welcome. We enjoy you being a part of the family. All right, Bo, what do you know?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me as always.
Oh, it's our pleasure. You're a great addition to what we're doing. And my star running back, Mel Farr Jr.
How's everybody doing?
Doing all right. And last but not least, my author, George Eichhorn.
Hey, hello, Scott. Hello, guys. Good to be on.
All right. Well, we have, tonight this episode is titled The 300th Win. I think everybody knows exactly who nailed that number this week, and we're going to lead off with that. Just so you know, though, after Inside the Pigskin, we have 108 Stitches baseball talk. All right, well, Bill Belichick finally gets his 300th win versus the Buffalo Bills in a 29-25 triumph to improve to 2-5. Will this win provide some momentum for the Pats? I do know that Bill Belichick was given an extension during the offseason. Mr. U, what's your take on this?
You're muted, bud.
Yeah, Mr. U, I didn't take.
I'm so sorry. My apologies, sir. Yeah, I wasn't really surprised by. I was not surprised by that part, but I think I'm surprised about the chatter that was going along with it, as if he didn't have one, and it was going on the whole time. They were saying that Kraft was thinking about making a move, kind of had an itchy finger. Just was wondering if maybe either take his GM job or the head coaching job as well. So surprised to hear about the extension. Not quite sure that provides momentum on the field, but if anything, may provide stability in the minds of the players. So, okay, we still have a head coach. We're not going to have to make massive changes because we have some continuity, if that's going to be the case with him staying there. But I have some questions about that part too, though.
Okay, that's fair. All right, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, cool that he got the 300th win. Whether or not it gives him any job security, I don't know about that. They are 2-5, so I wouldn't put a lot in that win. Plus, it was against a Bills team that, let's be honest, has been really inconsistent so far this year. So, there's a real good chance that they get the brakes beat off them by the Dolphins next week. So, then does this conversation change, right? Yeah, they come off a win. Cool. Do I think that it gives a lot of stability? Not really, not unless it really does become a momentum swing and they can rattle off some wins.
Mel?
Yeah, 300 wins, you think about it, what it takes to get to 300 wins. That means you had to be around for a while. And in this league now, the microwave generation that we live in, what have you done for me lately? Obviously, he was extremely fortunate. If you look at the start of his career, nobody would have guessed that he would have rattled off or been around long enough to get 300 wins. But he was fortunate enough to come, have somebody like Tom Brady come along and perform the way that he did. And that makes his job much, much easier. I mean, how many wins of those 300 is Tom Brady a part of? But, it says a lot to how long he's been able to hang around in the league, obviously, because like I said, this league is a what have you done for me lately league. And if you haven't done anything for me lately, you're gone. Some guys don't even make it a full season, as we saw last year. So it is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to win in that league. As I've said before, it's very, very difficult to win because those other guys getting paid too, and so is that other coach. So it just says a lot about him, what he's been able to do, how long he's been able to hang around, and I'm happy for him. That's a heck of an accomplishment. Not many NFL coaches can say they did that. And, I'm talking about even Hall of Fame coaches. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He didn't come anywhere close to 300 wins. There's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame who didn't get 300 wins. So that's a testament to him and being able to adapt to the changing players, the times. And then again, he had an all-time great that helped him get a lot of those wins. So he owes a huge debt of gratitude to Tom Brady.
Okay, Mr. Yu, would you have something you want to add to this?
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. I don't know if you guys heard the comment from former Super Bowl winning linebacker Tedbrus. He said that he wants Bill Belichick to win 6 or 7 games this season and then just walk away. He's saying there's no point in trying to chase Shula because Belichick has more Super Bowl wins than Shula, and in his mind, he's a better coach than Shula is. So he was saying his suggestion is stop worrying about this race to 347, get 6 or 7 wins with New England, and walk away with your head held up. What do you think about that, man? It's crazy.
Well, we'll turn it over to George Eichhorn. What do you think about that? Yeah. George?
Well, it's a very interesting statement from Bruschi. Yeah. Very interesting.
Well,
statement. Okay. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's a good coach, and he's
okay. Well,
300 wins is something special, man.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, George. I'll finish your thought. And
it's a good achievement for Belichick.
Okay. All right. Reality is Don Shula's record is what he's hanging on to try to eclipse, I think. And Robert Kraft, to me, knows in my mind that this nice extension here, okay, is probably his going away present for all of what he's done. I don't think his job by any way stretch is safe whatsoever. I really don't. I mean, if they have an awful, awful season, what few people don't realize is that he has a chance to become the all-time losingest coach too.
He'll do that this year.
Yeah, exactly, Bo. That's my point. Yeah. So, it's hard to really dictate where this thing is going. And, you just never know. Going away presents are what they are based on loyalty is what I've noticed. And this just seems like to me with Robert Kraft, it's written all over it. So with that said, all right, let's talk about our next segment. What team can we fix this week? All right, Mr. Yu.
You're muted, bud.
Mr. Yu, you're muted.
Yeah. Trying to be respectful and not, blast you guys out. Sorry about that. All right, so I think my team is going to be the Bengals. Now, if you look at just normal publications and everything, everybody talking about how highly ranked their offense is. I don't really agree with that just from the raw numbers. But their defense is something that they promised to fix 2 years ago. And they hadn't fixed it. They kind of leaned on Awuzie and Jesse Bates. What's the other guy? Oh, yeah, and Von Bell from the Saints. And they kind of just rode them for a while and didn't have anybody coming up behind them. And now all 3 of them are hurt. Awuzie is out, I think, probably for the whole season with ACL. And Bates and Bell are both out. Now what they got guys back there that have getting experience right now, basically being tried in the fire. I mean, they're averaging, I think they give up about 23 points, 24 points a game in all of their losses. It's the same issue they had in 2021. They never really fixed it. They're 27th in the league. They gave up about 355 points. 355 yards on average, 13 touchdowns. It's 27th in the league. And they haven't really solved the problem. I'm like, okay, you put more pressure on the offense when you don't have, defensive stops and things of that nature. So I'd love to see them kind of work on that part. But I'm curious about what you guys are thinking about the Bengals. What would you fix?
All right, Bo, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need some help on the defensive side of the ball. Like you said, it's one of those where you were hoping they were going to get better, and then in the offseason, they ended up getting worse, right? They end up dumping a couple of corners. Not to say that they don't have some pieces, but, I mean, they're not going to be an elite squad for sure. And, if the offense stumbles, that defense, you don't feel confident is going to make a lot of stops. They had a good day against the Seahawks, right? But beyond that, they haven't excelled as a unit. So that is definitely a portion of the Bengals that needs to be fixed for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Mel, what do you think?
Yeah, you just look at from around the league in this weekend. You look at what Cleveland was able. Was it Cleveland? No, it wasn't Cleveland. It was who'd San Francisco play?
Yeah, they played the Browns.
Cleveland. Okay.
Yeah.
You look at what they were able to do. So there's been a lot been made about Brock Purdy. Now all of a sudden he's on a 2-game slide here, and really hasn't looked the same. To be quite honest with you, and you look at the biggest way to fix your team is to get better defensively. Being able to put pressure on the passer. And to be able to effectively stop the run. And I think that that's something that, Cleveland, there was a lot of high expectations because of Deshaun Watson, but I don't think, I was never really high on him. I don't think he's not playing right now. PJ Walker, I believe, was in the game. And they won with the backup quarterback because they have such a strong defense. So you look at some of the teams that are struggling right now. In particular, the one that just jumps out is, a team like Denver, even though I think they did win this past week. You got to be able to, one thing you have to be able to do in the NFL is you got to be able to control the line of scrimmage, both offensive line of scrimmage and defensive line of scrimmage. And you got to be physical. And if you're not going to be a physical team, it's going to be a very long season for you. So I think, a team like Denver, the quickest way to turn things around is to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage. And that's what you have to do offensively and defensively. So you have to be able to stop the run, and you need to be able to run the ball. So you have to be able to impose your will on your opponent if you want to be successful in this league.
All right, George. Looks like he's freezing up. All right, you know what? I'll go ahead and provide mine. I say it's the Green Bay Packers. There we go. Green Bay Packers are struggling. Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur. To me, the test of what they're going to be doing. George is off now, probably the rest of the night due to technical problems. It's not a big deal. We'll just take it from there. But getting back to my original thought, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, things are going to get really interesting in Green Bay. And losing to the Denver Broncos did not help their cause one bit at all. So, can't see where this season goes with them. It just doesn't look good up in that neck of the woods. So,
I mean, they were starting to look like the team we thought they were going to be, though.
No, I think
rattling off some wins in the beginning made it look like they were going to overachieve. But I mean, I didn't have them really doing anything the first year with Love as the starter, anyway.
Well, I agree.
It's crazy because the talent hasn't changed as much as you think it has. They got a lot of the same pieces.
Well, but they weren't exactly.
Like the only real difference is really Love. I think Bakhtiari, he's been out the entire season. He gets hurt pretty annually, so not having left tackle there kind of doesn't help out somebody as brand spanking new as Jordan Love, I guess, in that regard. But I mean, and Aaron Jones hasn't helped out either because he's been injured off and on a bit too with his hamstring. But man, they got a lot of the same pieces. It's not like it's like a brand new squad. It's kind of strange to see them. I knew they would struggle somewhat, but I'm surprised to see them at 2-4. I'm kind of shocked by that a little bit.
You got to keep in mind they weren't exactly blowing the doors off at the last year with Rodgers either. That wasn't a good team.
They were better than 2-4, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. This is weird.
Well, the reality of the situation, Bo, I'm with you all the way, man. And the fact that, they were overachieving for a while, but remember, you're talking about a 17 game. NFL schedule that ultimately catches up with you. 16 did, 17 for us. And ultimately, when it becomes 18, it's not going to be any better either. Because it's a matter of time before we're going to have an 18-game schedule. The end result's going to be an 18-2 is really what it's going to be. So
it's going to be a mash unit. That's what it's going to end up being.
Oh, sure.
You need to add like 10 roster spots just for attrition alone.
Well, I think that's why they're having those bigger practice squads for that reason to begin with. I think we saw during the COVID-19 situation where they were adding more and more players. And now with the collective bargaining agreement being what it is, to me, and the XFL and the USFL taking players, they certainly want to strengthen what you have in your pocket. And I can see all of that. So, okay, with that said, let's move on to the game of the week. Okay, Mr. U, what's your game of the week?
Well, it was a hard one because me and Bo were talking about it earlier this morning. It was hard because there's so many games that were like a shock to everybody's pick'ems.
Oh, man.
A lot of teams didn't expect to win. Underdogs came out there, came with some wins. I'm going to pick the Commanders and the Giants. Not because of the home time reason. It's something else. I'm struggling to try to find out what actually happened. Why was this? I know they played the Commanders. But the Commanders have played teams tough off and on throughout the course of the year, so it's not like they've been getting blown out or anything. What happened to cause this to happen? Was it Tyrod Taylor under center this time? Was it Justin Pugh with some more games under his belt on the O-line, helping the quarterback out? Or was it Brian Daboll taking over the offensive meetings? What caused was it all three? Because this team came out a lot different than they have the entire season. They came out strong. They came out fast. Which is something they haven't done. I mean, 2 touchdowns in the second quarter is not a big deal to most games in the league, but that was a big deal for us because we hadn't been doing anything like that. We haven't even had offensive touchdowns in the first half at all for the entire season. So it's a huge deal. We had 6 sacks on the defense. There was some issues with fumbling and some muff punts and everything, but a lot more scoring, a lot more aggression on the defensive side, a lot more of a pass rush. What happened? So I was just excited to see that they play like with some heart, play with some guts out there. So I don't really know what it's one of those 3, if not all 3 of those things were a factor, but that was my game of the week, man. That was good to see they actually didn't go down in flames and they come out with some heart because 2-5 is not insurmountable, but it's a great start to get a W there. But that's my game of the week.
Okay, Mel, what was your game of the week?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I was out of the golf course when I got the scores. And I was really surprised by how Baltimore handled Detroit. That was I think it was a big wake-up call for Detroit. Now, it's not a season killer or anything like that. I think it comes at the right time for them. Maybe they're, starting to believe some of the press clippings about them, starting to smell themselves a little bit, starting to believe what everybody was saying about them. And it's a good wake-up call. But, also Lamar Jackson is, I think they said 16-1 against the NFC. And, the NFC doesn't get to see him a lot. He's something different. He's a different kind of cat. But, I didn't expect him to have that, to be thoroughly whooped that way. I think it was, it was something to nothing at halftime. I mean, it was not pretty most of the game. And we know Baltimore, they play in that division where you have to be physical. And it shows the Lions just aren't up to that physicality yet. They're a physical team. They take on the personality of their coach, but they're not at that level of physicalness yet. And they're going to have to become a much more physical team if they want to continue this season and continue to win this season and make some noise in the postseason.
Okay, Bo, turn to you.
Yeah, so I was going to go that route, but I'll go with the Eagles and the Dolphins. Speaking of teams that were not ready for physicality, that Dolphins D was not prepared for what the Eagles could do physically on the offensive side. And of course, tons of talk about the tush push comes up, right? Because they ran that thing 5 different times during the game, effectively, obviously. But, the biggest thing is if you don't want them to create that situation, don't let them get within a yard on 3rd down.
Right.
I mean, your defense is already coming up short if they have a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. So I can tell you they're not going to roll that thing out if it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8. right? You're going to have to actually play offense. So, yeah, I like what the Eagles were able to do there, and it highlights the fact that the Dolphins defense needs some work. And they could probably benefit from maybe one of these free agent running backs.
Okay. All right. Well, my game of the week is actually the Clemson Miami game. I saw the double overtime. What a game it really was, too. And here's the biggest thing. Okay. Number one, I've never seen a young quarterback as likable as this kid is, Williams. Folks, I encourage you to go to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel if you're already subscribed, and if you're not, please do it. And this kid is, let me just preface what I'm going to say. He says to every reporter in the room, okay, great question, great question, great question. And, you want to talk about even the SID there, to me, was smiling a little bit like, wow, what a refreshing kid. Mind you, this kid was taking the place of Tyler Van Dyke. Okay, he really was. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was so refreshing. I mean, this is a big game that Emory Williams got thrown into. It really wasn't. The kid got off to a slower start. Donald Chaney Jr., he developed a good rhythm for him is what he did. And, and the way I look at it is it's just an unbelievable sight to see. It really is. So the way I look at it is I'm going to go the game of the week with, it's a double overtime. Miami, mind you, okay, to me, lost 41-10 to Clemson a year ago. Mariocristobal is coming off a situation where he lost the kneel down game. And if there's ever a coach that needed something to go right his way, it definitely is. And I'm looking forward to going back to the Virginia game on Saturday. I really, really am. So, we have a lot of great clips on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, but many from this last game, Miami Hurricanes are really big for us. But check out the one with Emory Williams, because this kid is he's impossible not to root for. He really, really is. So with that said, we'll turn over to Mel. Give me some of your topics.
I was watching college football and Clemson, Miami. And Clemson was up for a little while. They were pretty handily at one particular time. They ended up losing in double overtime. And the quarterback, the play that they ran, the quarterback decided to pull the ball and try to make a play himself. And Dabo was asked about that play, and he said the call was a straight handoff. I mean, Talk about backing up the bus and just driving over your player. But that just tells you the egos that are involved in college football, where, he had to make it known that we called the right play. The player didn't execute. Now they're calling for this 18, 19-year-old kid to be benched because, he said he saw something before the play. He remembered, something happened in a previous game, and he pulled it, and he was able to score a touchdown. But in this particular case, unfortunately, they had it covered pretty well, and it was probably best to go ahead and just call the play run the play that was called. My thing is, we all know about these egos and college coaches, but do you think that was an appropriate comment of Daboswinney to just drive the bus over his player, or should he have said something else to protect his player, as opposed to just leaving him out there and hanging him out there to dry?
Well, Daboswinney, in my opinion, Daboswinney's stock is dropping the last couple of years. He's a powerhouse for a while, and all of a sudden the conference is getting better. He's just not getting as many good players. So I've always said, don't throw your player under the bus. I think that's stupid. I've never been a big, remember, these are kids. These are college athletes, not pros. And they make mistakes. I totally get it. But you don't throw your player under the bus. You just don't do it.
That's right. Don't go after the kid. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Well, yeah, the old Mike Gundy. No, but Bo, you were so right, though, about that. We can laugh about that all day long, Bo, but you know what? What you just said is very, very, very appropriate.
He's kind of like the dad of the team. I mean, You know, somebody comes from stranger come to your house and talk down to your kids, and you ain't gonna stand up for them. You ain't gonna do that. No self-respecting father is gonna do that. I mean, you should be there for them and have their back. I think character always shows up in the worst of times. If you find out who a person actually is, I've seen little signs of this. Probably going back before COVID. Maybe before
COVID, because that's when they were winning. They were really winning. They, you know, they
yeah,
I mean, high on the hog.
Yeah, but even in their winning I noticed because my guy down the road over here, 2 doors down, when they winning, I ain't got to watch no TV. You got flags all over the car and the house. And outside was bright, ugly orange on. I know what's happening. I ain't got to watch nothing. But when that was happening, I mean, same way my neighbor was boasting, same thing that was doing on 11 o'clock news, boasting about himself and what they did and that kind of stuff. And it's like that stuff kind of comes through. So to your point, Mel, kind of some character issues that, and I think Scott might have said it also. It's been going on for a while. His stock's been dropping. So this is kind of like maybe he's feeling the pressure and the weight, and just he's starting to crumble under the pressure. I mean,
yeah, I think the playing field was somewhat level, somewhat level prior to NIL. Now the playing field has been severely tilted towards the programs that had the big money. Georgia, your Alabamas, your Texas, your USC's, Michigan. I mean, it's just it's just a free fall there. And from my understanding, Dabo is not really into NIL and all that kind of stuff, and so he's not getting the same type of players that he. I mean, if just look at Philadelphia and what they were able to do. Those two guys on the defense. I mean, those guys are monsters. The guys they've had, Jalencarter and the other guy. Who just got drafted last year? Those guys are just absolute monsters. And, both of those kids are in Georgia at the same time. I mean, can you just imagine that? I mean, how difficult would it be to run on that type of defense with those two guys up there? The other thing I noticed, they talk about Michigan and the sign stealing thing, and I think Deion had a very apt comment regarding it. Baseball, he said, is one thing. If I know a curveball is coming, I can sit on it, I can wait on it, but in football, stealing signs, you still got to stop the play. When Dallas Cowboys were winning and Emmitt Smith was running the ball, everybody knew Emmitt was getting it, but guess what? They couldn't stop him because they had those big old offensive linemen that were paving the way for him, that were able to, make those holes for Emmitt Smith. They still couldn't stop it. I mean, there's a lot of teams that you knew who somebody was getting the ball. Folks knew Jim Brown was going to get the ball, but guess what? They couldn't stop him. You knew Barry Sanders was getting the ball, but guess what? You couldn't stop him. And I think he makes a very valid point when you're talking about sign stealing in football. I mean, the teams, college teams, for the longest time had those posters with different people that had a picture of Elvis or a picture of somebody else, and I'm like, what is all that? I had no clue. So, sign stealing has been around forever, but again, like Deion said, you got to stop it. So, do you think the sign stealing situation up at the University of Michigan is a big deal?
I do not. I got guys in the gym just today, a couple of hours ago. What do you think about the sign stealing? I'm like, that's been going on. It's not really a big deal. You still got to make plays on the field. Even Matt Rule, I think the coach of I think he's with Nebraska now, I think, he was saying sign stealing has been going on. Why are you asking me about this? There's nothing new here to see. I mean, like you said to your point, man, you still got to make the plays on the field. I don't see some kind of egregious thing. For me, I got to be careful because it's going to be sound like Michigan bias, but I feel like people are trying to come after us, especially this year. I feel like people are trying to dig up any kind of dirt they can find. I personally have gone on record saying that this is the year, not next year. We're going to lose 25 guys in the draft. This is the year. You get the natty this year or you don't get it. I've been saying that. I ain't changing my mind. I'm on record. It's on YouTube. It's on everywhere. You get it this year or you ain't getting it. Period. When all 25 guys leave, it's a whole lot of talent on both sides of the ball leaving. Hard to replace that. You better do it this year. So I think everybody's trying to come after us for all this nonsense about sign stealing and giving kids burgers. Man, come on, man. Let's just play football and see who's the best out there and see what's what. Not this other stuff to be a distraction to us and try to take us off course and get us to lose focus. This is nonsense. That's not a real thing, I don't think. But
yeah, we'll see who the best money can buy. What about you, Bo?
Yeah. So to answer your last question first, the thing with Swinney is if he didn't have that same energy when he changed the play and it worked, as when he changed the play and it doesn't, then you need to get off the podium. Plain and simple. So as far as sign stealing, when I played, they called that scouting. So I don't really see a problem here. There was always somebody that went to other games to see what they were doing. Like that's called doing your job as a scout. So, I mean,
it's happening right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Deion Sanders' point, right, is you still got to execute the play. Like, even if you know what's coming, everybody knows the tush push is coming, right? That still goes for 3 yards every time they run it.
And nobody else can do it. Nobody else can do it but Philly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's coming.
Right. It's coming.
Say you stole the sign. Who cares? You they're coming at you. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's different for baseball, right? Like if you know a pitch is coming, you can time up on it. When you got 11 dudes that have to execute all at once, I don't care if you know what it is, because those receivers can break off a route. The running backs can pick a different hole. Like there's a lot of things that can change. In baseball, if he's going to throw a slider, well, he's throwing a slider. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, in football, it's a wildly different thing. So although you may be able to figure out what play they were going to run, there's always options from any given play.
Yeah. And I think going back to your point about Dabo, all these coaches want the praise when things are going well, but they don't want to fade any heat whatsoever. They're going to let the kids fade the heat, which is how I looked at it with Dabo in this particular situation. Like you said, if he changed the play, Dabo's going to take all the credit for it. But since he didn't run the play that was called, Dabo doesn't want. That's not the play we called. That's something the kid did on his own. And I just thought that was class. And I think I might have told you guys about this before about stealing signs or about scouting. When we played the University of Iowa in 1986 in the Rose Bowl, our offensive line coach we knew Iowa's gap control. So when we got to the line of scrimmage, we'd have a play called, and and depending on how the nose guard tipped the way he was going. So if his left foot was back, that meant he was going to the right. So that means everybody was going that way. And if his right foot was back, that means he was going to the left. That means that was his gap. He was going to shoot that left gap. So everybody else was going that way, and then the secondary, moves accordingly. If his feet were even, he was still going to the left. So we would call a play, look at his feet. If the play was good, we'd run the play. If it wasn't, we just call opposite, which means we're going to go the other way because we knew the gap control. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit those cutback lanes, and that's how Eric Ball was able to score. He had a Rose Bowl record as far as rushing is concerned and 4 touchdowns. That was after our starting running back had went out of the game with a pulled hamstring, and the second string guy comes in there, sets a Rose Bowl rushing record, and scores 4 touchdowns. So offensively, if you know what the defense is doing, you do have an advantage. Defensively, if you know what the offense is doing, you may not necessarily have an advantage because again, you got to be able to stop those folks. All right, Scott, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Mel. All right, let me talk about sign stealing. First of all, okay, I agree with colincowherd. If this wasn't the Michigan Wolverines, nobody would be talking about it. Yep. That's all there is to it. Colincowherd is dead accurate on this one. He really is. If it were the Indiana Hoosiers or some other team, nobody would care. They probably figure they can use all the help they could get.
They're doing it.
Exactly.
It's not like every other team isn't doing it.
Thanks, Bo, but you're making my point for me. I appreciate that. But Michigan Wolverines, okay, and I'm going to tell you another thing that'll happen here. Eventually, Harbaugh is going to get sick and tired of the NCAA. I've actually run into Bruce Pearl last year in Alabama. He didn't have anything good to say about the NCAA, and if anybody goes back to college basketball, Cherry Tarkanian didn't like him either. So when they start to get their eyes on you, they're looking for a witch hunt, okay? They're going to target you. But this will probably be the thing that leads Harbaugh back to the National Football League because he's sick and tired of dealing with this stuff. He really is.
I mean, losing half his roster next year might do it too.
Well, that's true. No, I'm with you all the way there, Bo. But reality is you know what? It's the Wolverines. And even Paul Feinbaum admitted, hey, Jim Harbaugh, is on a list where he's probably on the most hated list for a lot of different places when you think about it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's too bad. Harbaugh's a heck of a coach. I think the only thing Michigan can do at this point is a guy who they suspended right now for doing it. If you want to show any urgency to the NCAA, you're probably, after the investigation is done, you have to let the guy go, because after all, you're trying to address the root of the problem, right? And that's what we're really pretty much looking at. So I don't know. I feel bad for Jim. I think he's the best coach Michigan's had in a long time, but there's a wood showing out on him. That's all I have to say about that. So, all right, we have one more topic to roll, okay? And it's this. Let's talk about receiving yards this season. Okay, the tale of two situations. A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles has 803. The Titan wide receivers have 789. Is that a strange stat, Mr. U, or what?
Yes, it is. I think Bo and I had discussed the wide receivers, D-Hop in particular, for obvious reasons. And it doesn't shock me at all. I don't even know what's going on in Tennessee. I think Tannehill is definitely on his way out of town. Right. I think he's better than that stat you just gave, but for some reason, something's not going well there. On top of that, you heard about Mike Vrabel at the Patriots. Was it the Hall of Fame for the Patriots? Right. Yeah, he acted like he was still a Patriot. And that is all kind of speculation that he's thinking about being Bill Belichick's replacement when the time comes. I'm like, oh. So I don't know if Tennessee is thinking about right now or they're thinking about the future. With their record, they probably should be thinking about the future, because sometime they just traded Bayer to Philadelphia, and that's probably one of their best defensive players. So they're not thinking about right now in this season. I think they kind of already begun to start cashing their chips in, but I'm not surprised, man. Hurts throws the ball all over the field, and Tannehill is not doing that. So,
yeah. Well, the amazing part about it is you have one receiver, and this is the reason why I brought this on here. A.J. Brown, who has more yards than the team's receivers. That's why I incorporate. What do you think of this one, Mel?
Well, A.J. Brown, he had a big game this past week, but he was fussing a couple weeks ago because he wasn't getting the ball. First and second week, I believe. He was, him and Jalen Hurts had words. He was, animated on the sidelines because he wanted to get more targets. And I think yesterday, or whichever day it was that they played, was that Sunday night that they played? Obviously, he got a lot of targets, got a lot of balls. So yeah, he's happy right now. But Tennessee was, Mike Vrabel again. He's a defensive-minded coach. They were never going to throw the football. I mean, you look at them since they had Ryan Tannehill there. They've been a run-oriented team. They weren't throwing. They're a play-action team. The run would set up the pass. So it doesn't surprise me. Obviously, Tannehill, he had his issues when he was with Miami, and I think the loss of their offensive coordinator Arthur Smith to become the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, I think that's had a lot of effect on his play, because he hasn't played as well since Arthur Smith has been gone, and he still had he was still injury prone. So the thing that they have to do is they drafted a quarterback who I think they feel pretty good about, Will Levis, I believe, out of Kentucky, right? And that does throw the ball a lot better than Tannehill does. Yeah, and again, Ryan, he didn't play quarterback that long. I mean, I think in high school he was wide receiver, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. I think he went to college as a wide receiver. Excuse me, only played a few years at quarterback. So he's a good athlete, but not just average to below average quarterback.
Okay. Well, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that people forget about this Titans team is Vrabel had almost more touchdowns than his entire receiving corps before they went and got D-Hop. He had 12, right? He played defense, mind you, and his entire receiving corps had 14 going into this season. So it's not like you were feeling great about what they had as far as offensive weapons. And then they go get D-Hop that was supposed to add some help. But the problem is you have a bunch of other weapons that aren't. And so people can kind of guard D-Hop however they want. Henry hasn't had the year that he normally does. So, I mean, they weren't going to have an amazing season anyway. But, But yeah, I mean, I think people expected more out of this receiving core than they should have.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And Mr. You brought up a really interesting point. I wouldn't be surprised at some point down the road, Mr. U, whether Mike Vrabel does become a coach of the New England Patriots. There's something about it just makes too much sense not to talk about it. Just because the guy Bill Belichick got an extension here, okay, doesn't mean he's necessarily going to live out that contract. You just never know. And I think Robert Kraft is going to find out by the end of the year, or do they need a new voice? And that money is for Bill is a goodbye present. Thank you very much for what you did. So great show tonight. Enjoyed.
That could definitely be true.
What's that?
That was a Titan fan. Sorry.
I mean, that could be the golden parachute for Bill, right? Because it doesn't go against the cap, and these teams pay out coaches all the time. So I mean, you definitely could be right there.
If I was a Titan fan, I'd be concerned though, because I mean, Levis and Wilson, they're not sure who they're going to play. They're going to play both of them together against the Falcons. I'm like,
I mean, see what you got, I guess.
I mean, that's one way of looking at it.
They see what they have with Malik. I mean, I've watched him play in high school. When he played high school and played ball up here in Roswell, I've seen this guy play for a long time. He's a tremendous athlete, but he still has a problem, with his accuracy, man, and being able to see the field. You got to be able to see the field, man. Maybe, and hopefully it's slowed down for him. What is this? This is Willis. This is his third year now. I think this is his third year.
This is year 3.
I think this is his third year. So I mean, things should be slowing down for him, and some of that athleticism and talent should be able to start to take over now. So I think that's important that guys get an opportunity. He wasn't drafted high, so there wasn't much expected of him. But hopefully he's taken some time to, study the playbook and really understand defenses and the nuances of the offense, and to be able to go out there and excel. But I don't think he's going to be the first guy in, though. I don't think. I'm not sure.
If we can believe what we read, Mel, it sounds like they don't have a lot of confidence in him.
Well, you can believe. I believe that.
So, I mean, and that's kind of exacerbated by the fact that they're going to play him and Levis.
Right.
Like,
I think you want to see what you have.
It's going to be a Taysom Hill.
I mean, you drafted Will Levis for a reason, and you drafted him where you drafted him for a reason. What is he? A second round pick?
Yeah.
Levis? Yeah, they got him. I think.
I mean, some guys had him. Some guys had him as with a first round grade. Will Levis. So. Guy falls down to you, and he's a pretty talented quarterback. You definitely want to see what you have there. You kind of know what you have with Malik. You know what you got there. He's more of a runner right now because he doesn't see the field very well. So I would definitely want to see what I would have with Will Levis, and based on how he plays would determine whether or not Malik gets in.
Yeah, we'll find out before long. Those are some interesting storylines as we continue every week here to find out what's going on with the Titans. And we'll probably be talking about Will Levis in the next couple of weeks. Now, of course, we all know that by the end of the week, you have the NFL trade deadline. I believe it's October 31st, right? So there could be a lot of movement coming on. And I believe that next Tuesday night, we're going to be focusing on a lot of those deals that are made. And that's what we'll be tracking. So meanwhile, this concludes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. Glad to have Mr. U on tonight. Mel Farr Jr., Bo Crouch. Unfortunately, George Eichhorn had to leave due to technical problems. Hopefully, he'll eventually get those worked out. I'm looking forward to having Coach Bono on next week as well. So, anyways, Mr. Do you have any parting shot? Anything you want to say?
Parting shot.
Parting shot? No. Just want to send some shout out to Coach Bono. Miss you tonight, Coach. Hope all is well and you're doing good. And hope to see you again next week, man.
It's the plan. We need him tomorrow night. And we got a great show lined up with Jennifer Lee Cobb, who we talk about Parkinson. Mel's going to be on there probably a lot more going forward. But we wanted to add tomorrow's show as a special teams type of thing when we talk about head injuries. And that's why we're going a different direction tomorrow. All right, Mel, anything you want to say to close it out?
No, just look forward to basketball season starting, and the Lakers were playing. They're getting, they're having a tough time. Before I got on this podcast, so I have to go see where they're, see what they're looking like here when I get off.
Okay, all right, Bo.
Yeah, could we stop fighting in the stadiums? This is dumb. You're seeing videos of this stuff every week. No game is important enough. You're not on their payroll. it's not affecting anything. All it's doing is hurting people and making you look dumb. So let's knock that shit off.
Okay, let me point out one more time here. Inside the Pigskin being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas, South Florida Tribune @gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me back at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @Tribune South. Candy Ebley is behind the scenes. And in a few weeks, I'm going to be launching the Motor City Mad Mouse show on this very network. My book, which is a media, but anybody can pretty much relate to it, is Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. All right, Mr. U, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. They call me Mr. U on YouTube, and as well, same name, different spelling on Twitter. They call me Mr. U. All
right. Go ahead, Bo.
So you can find me on my channel at Football-Talk, and of course on Twitter, Football Talk with Bo.
All right, and last but not least, my running back, Mel Farr Jr. Let everybody know they can reach out.
Yeah, you can reach me all the social media at Mel Farr Jr., Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and the other one. You can find me there, and then you find out what we have going on for the youth at melfar.org.
All right, well, that concludes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. At the top of the hour, we're going to have 108 Stitches baseball talk. So meanwhile, on behalf of Mr. U, Bo Crouch, and Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin, and we will see you next week. Have a great football week, everybody.